So, it's been 3 years since Better Call Saul ended, and Vince Gilligan has gone ultra instinct to give us Pluribus,
It's Plurbin time.
and I really liked it. I have to say that it definitely wasn't perfect, but I don't really have any big complaints. The show has a very interesting concept, and it's executed in such a unique way. Episode 1 is fully about the takeover, and of course, the introduction to Carol. I didn't care that much about the characters the first time I watched it. So a lot of the things that happened in the episode felt kind of inconsequential to me. But I do hesitate to call Pluribus episode 1 a bad episode because I did care about it the second time I watched. And I do care about rewatchability quite a bit. I felt actual tension during the scene with the rat where the scientist gets bitten. I was super annoyed when she removed her gloves, but still. I really enjoyed the scenes with the scientists discovering the wave and discussing the potential alien civilization that the wave may have come from. I just thought those scenes had such a great sense of wonder and excitement. A part of me hopes that we actually encounter the aliens at some point, but to be honest, that does feel like kind of a different show. So I guess we'll see. And more importantly, I really felt the impact of Helen's death on the rewatch. I actually paid a little closer attention and I thought that Helen and Carol's relationship was really charming, especially how Helen is kind of like a caretaker for Carol. I felt bad when Helen died. Now, as I said, Pluribus has a slow build up, but the second episode kind of stands out in that sense because quite a lot happens in the second episode. The episode starts with the introduction to Zosia, and I find Zosia's backstory really interesting. Now, why was she dirty and in rags, and what was she doing before the joining happened? And it's crazy that we still don't know that even at the end of season 1. But yeah, I can't wait to find out in season 2. An important thing we learn in episode 2 is that the Hive is a kind and gentle antagonist. So kind that they're actually better than the average human in many ways. And I really love this. I saw theories and things online of people predicting that the Hive would turn out to be actually evil, that they really were lying this whole time and tricked Carol into thinking they can't lie. And I'm really glad none of that happened. Not just because it wouldn't make sense, but also because it's so much more interesting this way. The idea of the protagonist Carol being less kind and gentle than the antagonist, the Hive, is just so much more dramatic and interesting. And I'm really glad that Vince Gilligan and the writers went with the more interesting option here. It would have been so fucking lame if there was some twist where the Hive turned out to be some weird mustache twirling villain or something. There are moments in the show where I outright felt sorry for the Hive. In this episode, when Carol yells at them and they seize, and later on, when Zosia gets hospitalized because of the grenade and then later has a stroke, I really felt sorry for the Hive in these moments. But as kind and gentle as the Hive is, they are doing measurable harm to the individuals that are part of the Hive. Whether or not we value individuality, it's clear that all the people in the world are going to starve to death if the connection isn't broken soon. It was so interesting in this episode to see so many characters from across the world. The sense of scale is incredible. One thing that Pluribus did really well is making the world feel huge.
The world is big.
I can't think of another show where our planet felt so big. I loved the interaction between Carol and the others, especially Lakshmi. I thought their fights were really entertaining, and I also kind of understand where Lakshmi is coming from. She is essentially someone who's just rationalized this whole situation and is living in total denial. I wouldn't be surprised if the Hive is still having her son's school running and sending her son to classes and having teachers and parent teacher meetings and things like that just to keep her happy. Diabate is gross. Imagine if those women got their old selves back. Do you think they'd appreciate what's been going on? Probably not. But he's still one of my favorite characters. I even find him likable to a large extent. That's kind of the thing with a lot of these shows, is that you can like a character in spite of how immoral they are. Man, I rooted for Walter White until the very end. And if you think I'm weird for doing that, remember that Vince's mom did the same thing. And I love that in Pluribus, none of the characters are truly hateable or evil. Really, it's unfortunate for Carol that every other person is basically just in denial. I guess the situation is just so mind breakingly huge that people can't help but rationalize it because they, as an individual, have nothing they could do about it. And also, it's important to keep in mind that all of their families are still fine, and that's probably a big part of it. Maybe if Helen didn't die in episode 1, Carol would look at it differently as well. Nah, probably not. And I love the progression of the conflict this episode, leading to everyone leaving Carol. Carol feeling alone is a really big part of this show, and it's nice to see them start setting that up as early as now so that it doesn't feel as sudden when we eventually get to episode 7. It's interesting to see Carol continue to be an annoying person when the hive just keeps trying to be nice. Like, especially how Carol will refuse to have breakfast, but she's fine with them restocking a whole supermarket for her. And you think having the breakfast would just be easier? I guess now is a good opportunity to say all the performances in this show are really good. A lot of it falls onto Ray Seahorn to keep us engaged and interested. It's a role that comes with a lot of weight for her to carry as the lead actress, and hey, she's carrying it. There's something really disturbing about how expendable the hive views the individuals within itself. The fact that they were happy to just give Carol a grenade, knowing there's a risk she may hurt someone with it. The fact that they're willing to even give her an atom bomb. But the second she tries something to find out how to break the connection, they immediately give her the cold shoulder. And we learn something interesting about Carol as well, that her mom forced her to go to conversion therapy. I think that adds a stronger reason why she is so opposed to the joining, because she sees the two things as kind of similar, and I suppose they are. It's essentially just forcing someone to be someone that they're not. I really love the conversation that Carol has with the hive about what Helen thought of her work. It's one of the most interesting things in this show. It probably really hurt Carol to realize that Helen never really took her seriously as a writer, nor did she even like her work. I think this is a very real thing and probably the case for a lot of relationships. Romantic relationships, friendships, parent and child relationships, whatever. I think that if you really found out what someone you love thinks of you, it potentially could be very heartbreaking. And I think that Pluribus is such an ideal show to explore this topic. And I'm really glad that Vince and the writers didn't pass up on this opportunity, because it is genuinely a really interesting thing to think about. I love how fleshed out Helen and Carol's relationship feels, despite Helen having such little screen time. I think the final sequence of this episode is really good. It's the Please Carol episode. And I think this whole sequence was super creepy and so eerie to watch. And the performance by Carolina Vidra is so good. I really felt sorry for her. I really felt the significance of what's going on. And all in all, it was just really well done. Once again, Carol's actions shake the whole world. And it was great to see next episode when Lakshmi calls her just to yell at her a bit. And I think it's really interesting to see that Lakshmi is still living in her old house. She hasn't moved to some fancy house or, something like what Diabate has done. And I think that reveals so much about her character. In the end of this episode, I was a little worried that we would have some kind of the lame twist that I talked about, where the hive would turn out to be secretly evil and all this. But I'm glad to say that most of it was just subverted the next episode. So yeah, in the next episode, we go back to Diabate. And I think the scene with him role-playing as James Bond is so great. I mean, the guy is an actual child. And I just think this whole scene was incredibly funny. I felt the emotional impact when Diabate explained to Carol that she was being left out of the Zoom calls that they were doing. Again, Ray Seahorn's performance really makes me feel bad for Carol here. And I also found Diabate like semi-charming this episode. It was nice of him to stay back and actually meet with Carol. And we get a moment with him that hints that he's not really happy, despite all the glitter around his life. He's secretly kind of sad on the inside. And it makes me root for him to have a change of heart and join Carol's side. At the end of episode 6, we see Manosos getting ready for a huge adventure, and I was really excited to see Manosos and Carol meet in next episode. Little did I know that there was actually 2 more episodes for that to happen. Regardless, I really loved the Gap episode. Some people were kind of unhappy with it when it came out. They felt like nothing happened in the episode or something. But I think the only reason that people feel that is because they were watching it week by week, and it's annoying when the episode ends and you have to wait a whole week for the next episode. I think once the whole season is out, which is it's out by now, it is going to be viewed as one of the better episodes. There's a lot going on in this episode. I think the montage of Manoso's journey is really beautiful. I think the world felt so huge during that whole montage. It really sold the weight of the significance of what Manosos is doing here. Just traveling all on his own, using maps, even going to a waterfall to fish for food. And of course, eventually when he gets to the Gap, the seriousness of the risk that he's taking to go this far. I think it was really important that they took the time with that so that you feel the significance of it. Right? You don't want fucking Game of Thrones season 7 with fucking people teleporting here and there, right? All of Manosos' stuff was really good. And of course, that brings us to Carol. Initially, when I watched the episode, I was wondering, why are we seeing so much of Carol just doing nothing? But as we got to the end of the episode, it made a lot of sense. It was actually building up to her breakdown. And I think the actual scene of her breakdown was so heartbreaking because I didn't know what was going to happen when Zosia pulled up at Carol's door. I mean, I was actually expecting it to be Manosos when we heard the car sound, but I wasn't sure. Even when we saw Zosia, I didn't know that Carol would react that way. So in a way, it was unexpected, but at the same time, it was also not random. It made total sense if you look back at what's been happening. The cinematography of this show is really great as well. Really great color grading. I love the music. I think we have Dave Porter on the score again. I'll have to check that. And I think the selected songs are really good as well. Especially the song that plays during Monosos' adventure. I think that was really beautiful. I thought that Carol's breakdown with her embracing Zosia was really impactful. I saw a few theories here and there saying that Carol may be faking it to deceive the Hive so that she could continue to scheme against them. And of course, she does continue to scheme against them as we see in the next episode. But I do think that her emotions are real here. She really is hurt by being alone for so long. And it makes sense too. You would go through that if you were truly alone for like a whole month with not even a person in the fucking street. I think that could really hurt someone. So it makes sense that Carol reacts that way. And we know for sure that's the case because of how she behaves in the following episodes. And I guess technically the Hive won the charm offensive because Carol is fully on their side by the end of it. And in episode 9, she goes so far as to even give up on her pursuit to undo the joining. Hey, what can you say? They broke our girl. One additional thing there is to talk about here is I really love the scene with the telescope where Zosia is explaining to Carol what they know about the aliens and where they got the message and so on. Again, such a great sense of wonder in this show. I think the level of restraint they're showing with how they actually show the aliens in this series makes it feel really real. It feels like this is a discovery that could happen in the real life. And this is how it would happen. It would be a signal or some really small thing. There wouldn't be fucking aliens showing up on Earth in spaceships, right? And I think that makes me actually believe it kind of and makes me feel the significance of it. And that brings us to the season finale of the show. Of course, we start with Kusi Mayu in the teaser And of course, she's the one that said that she wants to join the hive. That sounds good to her. And there's something just so wrong about all of this. She joins the hive, and in the blink of an eye, an entire culture just got wiped off the face of the fucking earth. Something which, if she knew that would happen, she would have never accepted, from what I could tell. But the hive is very good at just withholding information from people, right? Even though they technically can't lie, if you don't press them for an answer, you can kind of miss some pretty important stuff. And this is a situation where it's actually really unethical. And of course, the performance of the goat was really, really heartbreaking to see that thing just alone now. And yeah, it really sells us on the idea that the hive is not a good thing, right? There's definitely been some debate about that. Oh, would you actually want to join the hive? And yeah, I think this pretty much settles that this is not something that anyone should want to do. Kusimayo joined without fully understanding what was really going to happen. On to the thing that everyone has been waiting for like weeks. So Manusos arrives at Carol's house, and their first meeting is so hilarious. I think Manusos is such a likable, dorky character that I just couldn't get enough of him. It's such a shame that we get so little of Carol and Manusos in this season, but whatever we did get was so amazing. The actors have such great chemistry together, and their banter is so great. They're really just way too similar for their own good. Manusos snapping at Carol for the phone, and her getting upset by that. And then, of course, him asking it again with that cheesy smile. All of that was so great. And I suppose for the first time, Manusos stops fearing the hive. He kind of understands that they actually won't harm you. And the episode actually, for a small portion, made me feel afraid of Manusos for a second. Especially when we see him with Zosia and he's finding out the truth. It was a little concerning how he may react. And when we saw him make the hive intentionally have a seizure, it was troubling. We weren't sure why he was doing that. Of course, we know that people die when that happens. But I'm glad they didn't make him into some kind of villain, because it was all obviously subverted later for the funniest shot in the whole season when we see Manusos in the trunk. And of course, we find out that Manusos did give sufficient warning before making the hive seize, which of course gave them time to get ready for it. Of course, Zosia lies down and everything. And that probably helped prevent any deaths this time. So that makes you feel a little better about him. And you realize he's actually totally harmless. But it's Carol that ends up taking the wrong choice here and ends up just deciding not to save the world. And she just essentially goes on vacation with Zosia. And I want to say that this whole segment of the episode had such a great feeling to it. It had this really ambient, sort of dreamy feeling to it, which really reminded me of the final episodes of Better Call Saul. Of course, it's the same cinematographer and music producer and everything, so that makes sense. And the lead up to Carol realizing that the hive is going to use her eggs to produce her stem cells is also pretty terrifying. Carol realizing the fakeness of the connection she felt with Zosia as an individual. All of that was really great stuff. And the final moments of the episode was really good. Carol dressing in all black like she's fucking Heisenberg and asking Manusos if he's ready to cook. That was really awesome. And the fact that she really did get that atom bomb was totally unexpected. And I think from what I can tell, the atom bomb is like a final resort. If the hive figures out the solution and comes to get her, the atom bomb is the final defense against that. That's my guess of what she's going to use it for. A nuclear deterrent, right? It's actually kind of annoying that you have to wait for 2 FN years to find out what happens. It's going to be a long wait. So, Pluribus. It's impressive that they managed to create such an interesting conflict in a fictional world where essentially no evil people exist. The worst that you have is that people are rude or that they act silly or something. And most of that is actually just Carol. The Hive definitely isn't rude, and they're probably more on the silly side of things anyway. A drama with such a dorky ass villain, and I'm on the edge of the seat to find out what happens. From the bottom of my heart, bravo Vince. Anyway, I'm looking forward to watching season 2. I'll see you guys again when the next episode is out. I stopped the video recording.